To be honest with you, I hope at this point they do continue to delay the squeeze. Not because I don't want to see the squeeze happen, but because every single day that they drop the price and the squeeze is not upon us, what we're seeing people buying more, but even more crucially, we're seeing people find out more about the markets in general. Because once AMC is done, this is information that we can carry on to pass on to other stocks and learn about how the broader markets work as well. And this is why I'm so happy that we have this great piece of DD to share with you guys in the video. But before we do dive in, first remember, this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. This is entertainment only. Make sure to give it a like though and subscribe because we are trying to spread all of the good DD that we can, as well as sharing my opinions. So if you can subscribe or share the video, it would be appreciated. We have just gone up 100 subscribers, so we're trying to keep pushing on our goal to 14k next. So we're going to dive in, we're going to look at this one, and you're not going to want to miss this because this is perfect. This is a great piece of info. Want to know why the squeeze is taking so long? This is why, says user Kid Cozy Boy. Now it's important to note this was a repost by user No Exchange 282, and the post from the degenerate battling the community elite because it's somehow not even 100 getting 100 upvotes within hours of posting. I take credit for nothing that's written in this post. So we're going to have a look at what this user does say and what is written in this whole big, long article. Economist Michael Hudson says the Fed broke the law with its repo loans to Wall Street trading houses by Pam Martins and Russ Martins. January 14th, 2022. Economist Michael Hudson, even within economic circles, there is a growing nervousness that the Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States, with power to electronically create money out of thin air, bail out insolvent Wall Street megabanks, balloon its balance sheet to 8.8 trillion without one elected person on its board, while the US taxpayer is on the hook. Basically, if we have a look for 98% of that. And it allows its Dallas Fed bank president to make directional bets on the market by trading in and out of $1 million S&P 500 futures during a declared national emergency. Has carved out a no-law zone around itself. So to break down that first one, it's saying that what's going on does look a bit illegitimate. I think most of that made sense apparently and obviously, so not too much need to break into that one, but yeah, that is very true and that is very worth mentioning. A lot of this money, this 8.8 trillion, but they are ballooning their balance sheet, and who is making those decisions and who actually gets the consequence? Well, of course, like the user mentions, the taxpayer is going to suffer the consequences of these. So should they not get the ability to have an elected person on the board? I think that they should, but obviously coming on to what we're actually seeing, that is a different story. Anyway, the latest ruckus from the Fed's release on December the 30th of the names of 23 Wall Street trading houses and billions they borrowed under its cumulative 11.23 trillion emergency repo loan facility that the Fed launched on the 17th of September 2019. 4 months before the first case of COVID-19 was reported in the United States by the CDC on January the 20th of 2020. The 11.23 trillion is said in brackets. The figure represents the cumulative amounts borrowed from September the 17th of 2019 to the conclusion of the program back on the 2nd of July 2020. The Fed has thus far released the names of the banks and amounts borrowed for the last 14 days of September 2019 and the final quarter of the same year. On January the 3rd, Wall Street on Parade published an article titled "There's News, Blackout on the Fed's Naming of the Banks That Got Emergency Repo Loans. Some journalists appear to be under the gag orders." Going down a little bit further, if we may, we can see the day after the article ran, we got a call from a well-known economist, Michael Hudson again, and it says, We explored the Fed's actions in some detail with Hudson since he planned to discuss the article in an interview he had scheduled with Ed Norton on an off-topic "What's Causing So Much Inflation?" You can watch the program and read the transcript here. Hudson is the Distinguished Research Professor of Economics at University of Missouri, Kansas City, and a prolific author. His most recent books include Super Imperialism, The Economic Strategy of the American Empire, and Forgive Their Debts. J is for Junk, Economics, and so on and so on and so on, and numerous others, as it does say. So we're not going to get into too much detail on that, but there are a few of his works. Coming down even further, we can see in an interview published with Hudson, Norton reads the following from the January the 3rd Wall Street on Parade article. And it says down here, the Federal Reserve, released the names of banks that have received about 4.5 trillion, that is trillion, trillion, very, very big number, in cumulative loans in the last quarter of 2019 under its emergency repo loan operations for liquidity crisis that has yet to be credibly explained. Norton notes that among the large borrowers under the Fed's repo loan facility were JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, and Citigroup. It was their trading affiliates. And these were three of the Wall Street banks that were at the center of the subprime and derivatives crisis back in 2008 that basically brought down the US economy. Norton asks Hudson, why is the Fed giving trillions of dollars to these large Wall Street banks? And why is there a liquidity crisis? That is unexplained. Why did the Fed refuse to, if we have a look down here, release the names of these banks? And was there a financial crisis before COVID that the United States government later was able to blame on COVID? But it was actually a financial crisis in the making, and COVID just allowed them to cover that up. That's a theory that is being asked. What Hudson says next will take your breath away for its insightfulness and candor. Come down a little bit further, we're going to see what Hudson actually said. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more, and it says, Hudson, there was actually no liquidity crisis whatsoever, and Pam Martins was very clear about that. She points out the reason that the regular newspapers don't report on the loans violated every element of the Dodd-Frank laws that were supposed to prevent the Fed from making loans to particular banks that were not part of a liquidity crisis. In her article, she makes it very clear by pointing out these three banks, Chase, Manhattan, Goldman Sachs, etc., which used to be a brokerage firm, and Citibank, that the Federal Reserve laws and Dodd-Frank Act explicitly prevent the Fed from making loans to particular banks. Then, it can only make loans if there is general liquidity crises, and we know that wasn't the case at the time because she lists that the banks borrowed money and there were often very few of them. Next along we can see, let's pause a minute to expand upon this. The Fed is perfectly able to make loans to individual depository banks under its discount window. That's been its role since its creation, as a lender of last resort to depository banks. But beginning with the financial crisis of 2008, with no authority from Congress, the Fed decided to willy-nilly that it will bail out the trading houses on Wall Street, even going so far to funnel tens of billions of dollars to their trading units in London, according to the government audit that was released back in 2011. The Federal Reserve Act has long banned the Fed from making loans without good collateral or to insolvent institutions. Back in 2008, the Fed made 2.5 trillion cumulative loans to Citigroup when it was insolvent for much of the time. Under the Fed's 2008 primary dealer credit facility, it was accepting junk bonds and stock as collateral at the time when both were collapsing in value. That certainly is not good collateral. It's not worth it, basically. In addition, according to government audit, 2/3 of the 8.9 trillion that the Fed pumped out of its prime dealer credit facility went to just 3 Wall Street trading houses: Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, and Merrill Lynch. So when Congress enacted the Frank Dodd financial reform legislation back in 2010, it specifically required the Fed could not use emergency lending programs under this section, which is 13-3 of the Federal Reserve Act, to bail out a failing financial institution. It could only offer emergency lending programs on a broad base to support the entire financial system. I think that makes clear sense to everybody, so we're going to carry on. Now, according to the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, as of June the 30th, there were 4,951 commercial banks and savings associations depository institutions in the United States which have federal deposit insurance. But the Fed's repo loan program, as the fall of 2019 and the first half of 2020, went to just 23 trading houses on Wall Street. To the rational mind, that doesn't sound broad-based. Hudson explains how this was able to happen in the continuing interview. Well, what happened? Apparently, while the Frank Dodd Act was being written in Congress, Janet Yellen challenged the wording and said, well, how do we define a general liquidity crisis? Well, it doesn't mean what you and I mean by liquidity crisis, meaning the whole economy is liquidated. So I think what they're trying to say is the words were kind of changed and manipulated to make sense in a way they wish for it to. Anyway, she said, if 5 banks need to borrow, then it's a general liquidity crisis. Well, the problem, as Martins points out, is that it's always the same 3 banks again and again and again and again. And if these are not short-term loans, Martins points out, they were 14-day loans. They were bigger loans. And they were rolled over and over, not overnight loans, not day-to-day loans, not even week-to-week loans. But after a month, the Fed was pumping money into JP Morgan, Citibank, and Goldman. But then once again, Martins points out that at least she told me these weren't really Citibank and Morgan Chase. It was their trading affiliates, so not exactly what Frank Dodd was supposed to prevent. In other words, they found a way around it. A bit lower down, Dodd-Frank, was supposed to protect depository institutions by trying a little bit to restore Glass-Steagall Act that Clinton and Obama thugs came out into the Obama administration and got rid of. Editor's note: we suspect but cannot say for sure that Hudson might be thinking about Robert Rubin when he says Obama thugs. Next paragraph. It was supposed to say, okay, we're not going to lend. We're not going to lend we're not going to let banks that have trading facilities, the gambling facilities on derivatives, and just place bets in the financial markets. We're not supposed to help out banks to solve all of these problems at all. And I think to that question, or to that point, absolutely right. Why should you help somebody with a mess that they've got themselves into? Anyway, what we see down here is, so I think the reason that the newspapers are going quiet is because the Fed broke the law and it wants to continue doing so. And the next paragraph says, and that's why the Wall Street banks fought so hard to get the current head of the Fed reappointed, Jerome Powell, because they know that he's going to do what they basically did under the Obama administration. He's loyal to New York City banks, and he's willing to sacrifice the economy to help those banks. And then there's a little bit of a paragraph down here speaking about what's going on. If you do want to have a read of that, you can do, but I'm just going to skim over it. Since September of the 18th of 19, since interviewed in the repo loan market, Wall Street on Parade has written more than 150 articles in real time, achieved here, sharing with our readers how the Fed has continuously ramping up these program terms of both the loans and the duration of the loans. Now, like I said, if you want to read this bit, I'm going to try to keep this video as short as possible, but you can do so in your own time. And if you want to get a quick paraphrase of what this was all meaning, too long didn't read. The Fed is gifting money to banks and breaking the law Dodd-Frank. In the process, the banks aren't even in a liquidity crisis. They're just handing over their investing. They're just handing it over to their investing affiliates. The whole system is corrupt. Buy and hold until the Great Reset. Now, that's some really in-depth DD, some real quality stuff that we have there, and I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to share it with you. Now, when we think about what this means and how it ties into AMC and what we can do about it, it really is starting to look like the whole system is thoroughly corrupt. It does look to be the case. And what does that mean? I think it does mean, like the user says at the bottom, we could be looking for a reset, a great reset. And I know that when everybody thinks about the great reset, they think about it in a negative light. It's always portrayed in a negative light. It's portrayed in the sense that, oh, well, the great reset's going to come and you're going to have less stuff than ever. We're all living a very privileged life. Well, let's think about this one realistically. There's people out there that have more than $100 billion in their banks. So if you get paid 40 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand a year, you're not making anything. You're making a pittance compared to what they are earning. So, does the Great Reset mean that we're all going to be poor again? Or does the Great Reset mean everybody's going to be a bit more equal? And if you ask me, I think it looks to the upside of those two options. Because, like I said, if we have multiple people, like 5 people in the USA, who have like half of the wealth, a lot more than the middle, and especially the working classes, how is that fair? Who is the Great Reset going to affect? Because like I said, guys, people like you and me were earning probably about 100 grand or less, £100,000 dollars a year or less. So we don't have anything to lose. But people who are at the top, billionaires, they're earning hundreds of millions, if not billions a year. They have a long way to fall. We're not too far from the bottom, but they have a long way to fall. So it's about the power that we're seeing. AMC is now about more than AMC. It was initially about a stock and a move up to $100, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. That was a squeeze that we wanted. Well, they've left this one too long now. We don't want a squeeze to $100 anymore. We want more than that. And more importantly, we want a marketplace that is fair for all. Why is that too much to ask for? I don't think it is. I really don't think it is too much to ask for, in my opinion, at all. I do hope that Great Reset does come, but I think it is going to cause pain to a lot. And I think we're going to have, even from our end at the long side, we're going to have some more suffering potentially before we do get there. But like I said at the start of the video, this is what's happening in the movement. We're having more time to discover more great stuff, and it makes me truly happy what we're able to do. So as always, guys, stay clever, stay savvy, and make sure that you do your own research, because this is not financial advice. But I will be back with another one for you guys in a bit, so see you then, goodbye. Thank you for watching through till the end, but let me tell you about our Discord. So on your screen you'll be seeing the N2S Finance Discord. Obviously it is split into multiple sections. Basically at the top we have updates from me and all that kind of good stuff. If you scroll down a bit further we have the main sections where we focus on cryptos, SPACs and other hot stocks including penny stocks, even stable growth stocks as well, and we even have a special AMC GME chat. If you scroll down you can see some research and DD from the community. We also have funny memes and you can see actual contributions from members down here. And again, if you do join us, it is completely free, link is down below. But if you do want to become a Patreon, you will actually get a pink sticker which will be displayed on your name. So your name will come up in pink as mine comes up in red down here, and that will show that you are a Patreon. But other than that, guys, you can join completely for free down below. You do not have to pay anything if you do not want to. Thank you for watching, see you soon.